the thinking and aspirations of our forefathers at independence. They wanted a country that is self-sustaining in many respects. And we are told by those that were there that in 1970-something, we were feeding countries like UAE. I saw, was it a film or something of it, Idi Amin Dada, when he was proposing, he was actually in a swimming pool, saying the British are dying, we need to help them, we need to save them. Now, if you're talking about the aspirations of the people of Uganda, then for the future, actually those are the people who are securing our future, or the future, which is our present today. Like Honorable Salam talked about Busoga giving or lighting the country for these many years. The expectation was that successive leaders or leaderships would make use of that electricity, create industries, give us jobs. Milton Obote's government, with all its troubles, Idi Amin's government, with all its troubles, created those jobs for us. So many jobs. By promoting agriculture, marketing agricultural products. There was a produce marketing board, coffee marketing board, lint marketing board, having recognized that the country is largely, predominantly dependent on agriculture. I hear General 7 today talking about value addition, value addition. You see, our forefathers knew about value addition for coffee in Bugolobi. They had their cooperatives which would collect the coffee from the farmers, sell it to Bugolobi, to Coffee Marketing Board, at a fee, take it to Mombasa, take it to London, and so on and so forth. One day in the 9th Parliament, as part of the Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee, I have said this before, we went there to supervise the operations of Uganda Property Holdings. We found people dismantling what our forefathers constructed in the 70s. And when we asked the arrangement under which those people were dismantling and call it reorganizing the place, they told us those people are going to sign an agreement in 2 days' time. They're on ground. They are dismantling what we spent money on. And they would sign an agreement or a memorandum of understanding with the government of Uganda 2 days from the date we were supervising them, or they were already dismantling.
My name is Munzir.
Now, that's how we have modernized agriculture. That's how we have secured the future, because previously they told us they were securing the future. Now that the future has already been secured with the humongous amounts we spend on UP and USE of 10,000 per student per year, their gains to be protected. If that is the collective gain to be protected, the gain of paying 10,000 per student. But when there is a school in this country, in Kanyareru, where they spend 750 per term, 50,000 per term, then there are gains to be protected. But there are also visible gains to be protected. I think we also need to be fair to this government. For example, a large bulk of these men and women came with nothing with their tattered clothes. I think Dr. Besigye at one point said, let's go back and reevaluate ourselves. We know what we came with or what we did not come with. I read a book by the late Honorable John Kazora, Betrayed by My Leader. He gave us a story of those people who would go to the bush. When they went to the bush, they found their commanders there did not have shoes. So the commanders took their shoes. And it was a crime for you to ask for your shoes. Why? Because your commander needs the shoes. And now for you are here demanding for your shoes. So you would be punished for that. So when they came back, when they came out of the bush, they did not have shoes. They shared amongst themselves the houses we had constructed as a country for senior civil servants, government officers, ministers, and so on and so forth. They shared them. In other words, it was a route. Whoever ran to Kololo and entered the house first, it would become his. Eventually, as poverty started biting, they sold them. The other thing was to sell those industries and factories at peanuts, nominal fees. I remember, I was a young man, but I remember a story of dairy corporation
5,000 shillings.
for 1,000 Uganda shillings.
Yes.
In other words, there are no processes. You get into your wallet, you get 5,000, pay, and ask for a receipt. I don't know how much that receipt would cost us to print, and then ask for your change of 4,000 shillings. Today, I don't know how much Dairy Corporation or the former Dairy Corporation is minting. Go to Coffee Marketing Board, it's a bush. The former produce, not produce marketing, foods and beverages. Here, next to Constitutional Square. It is now Mabilis Plaza, I think. Mabilis complex, that building, and so on and so forth. Those are the gains. The people who came with nothing have accumulated everything. The country that they found with everything has been reduced to nothing. My brother, the Honorable Matia Kasaija, told us that actually the economy is, you know, the economy is, I don't know whether it has not taken off. It is at high altitude. It is already up there in the sky. The last time we appeared in Parliament, we were actually recalled from recess. And do you know the reason? Was to come back and approve 2 loans, loan after another. Our forefathers foresaw or envisioned a country where Ugandans would be free, where Ugandans would enjoy freedoms, rule of law, constitutionalism. You have a president who signs a constitution today, 10th October 1995. In a few moments later, I think that's what your generation say, a few moments later, it tells you this is a piece of paper. It means nothing. You can have people who were charged in the defunct court-martial. The Supreme Court declares on 30th January, was 31st? January, 31st January 2025. Transfer them to civilian courts. Today is October. They are in prison with no valid warrant of a recognized court, and the people are proudly saying there's a rule of law. And when you talk about the criminality of the state, a Makerere professor of history jumps up in arms. In other words, a person with a PhD in history, without a sense of history of where we have come from. So they have personal gains to protect. I don't think they have our gains to protect.
Let me come to Dr. Tanga. 40 years ago, when you list these gains and put them against the yardstick of 40 years, do they measure up?
The yardstick of 40 years And that's why I like that should be put against a trajectory. And I like all of you for saying, yes, it started in 1962. Uganda started at 1962 and has moved on. You must also be able to evaluate that trajectory and the consequences of mistakes within that trajectory. I want to say this for a fact, that Uganda's problem since independence has not been rain. It has not been the fact that bush is growing in Busiro or trees are heavily growing in Mabira. Uganda's problem since independence has been leadership. The type of leaders at independence, the type of leaders 1971, the type of leaders 1971, 1980, and the mess in the country that my colleagues at senior level don't want to recognize. A country reaching a definition of a failed state by all categories and indices is a country in a deep drain. Lifting it out of that takes time, takes resources, and consumes resources that should have been used to move forward. When we are here, we must be analytical enough. We must actually put Uganda in two or three phases. The Uganda pre-independence. When we come to independence in 1962 up to 1964, Uganda was at a better stage of takeoff. And Honorable Musumba, in her academic dialogue, knows this a lot. Just like this legal mind of high standard. That Uganda from 1962 to 1961 to 1964 was better off than all these other East African countries. Even when Congo is the richest in the world, Uganda still was better off and was supposed to be at takeoff. Now what happens? This is a question of leadership.
Has it been answered?
This is what I'm saying you. We are now having a problem of managing our successes as NRM. NRM has to manage successes. What is the success in the medical area? There are more children keeping alive now than before. The population growth is higher than before. How do you plan for them? That is what NRM is now doing. Plan for this fast-growing population in form of schools, in form of health care, in form of this and that. That is what we are now grappling with. You go to security, which you don't want to talk about. Like Honorable Nyoto said, you cannot talk about anything in Uganda without actually benchmarking on the security and stability of the country. Whether you want to talk about Lint Marketing Board, whether you want to talk about all the boards you have, what was the problem? We were in abyss, not the abyss of poverty, but the abyss of poverty of clear leaders and insecure country. Me and Salam were in the university almost 1 year after the other or ahead of the other by a year or two. She knows. The population in the university, the only university then, was about 2,000, I think 900. I remember my admission letter and I remember my registration number was 1499 in the School of Education. The enrollment was small. The capacity to take that small it was not comparable to now. Look at the multitude of those we shun out. Even if you have a very strong economy, you cannot employ all. That's why the NRM is now insisting on mindset change. Don't insist on public service jobs, which are only 480,000. Let us go into agriculture. Let us go and use youth livelihood funds. Let us go through PDM. Those are all projections of a trying to say we have moved well. We are now stable. We are now the peace and stability state of the Africa. We are now receiving refugees than sending Ugandans out as refugees. Bullets have been replaced by ballots. The challenges of ballots are there, but now Uganda is run through ballots more than bullets. You can say elections are rigged, it's okay. You can say elections are irregular, it's okay. You can say they come this and that, but it's a better option historically than when bullets ruled Uganda than ballots. If you read E.A. Brett's description of Uganda, bullets more than ballots, rolling heads, professors leaving universities for greener pasture, professors running, people running away for their life. That is the basis on which you can soundingly say you have gained, you are securing, you are actually moving ahead with the quality leadership. You know, when you minimize at this panel the gains, and I liked Honorable Ssegona, although he didn't go delve deep in it, and I can't blame him because he wants to belong to the other side always. When you minimize the gains since 1986, you are like, you are not living in Uganda. Honorable Lydia Wanyoti is 9th October. My third born is 9th October. Others who were born after 1986 and have no mind story to be told about what happened before then will reason like some people reason here. But if you have been in Uganda, if you have lived with your parents with snakes in the bush, running away in the evening, today the country is stable up to northern Uganda. So what I'm emphasizing here, the first gain to be secured and to be planted on is peace and stability, because on it everything grows. Another thesis I actually started with is that the question Uganda has had for a long time has been leadership issue. Not because the leaders were old. At independence they were young. The highest was about 41 years. They had a country with a population of 80 million. A country with the resources overflowing. What then happened? Why did we reach where we reached? Leadership. If you go to education, Uganda for a long time was a hub. We had the first, people recognize Uganda for the big colleges, King's College, Budo, this. So what happened? The years of traumatic leadership, less traumatic, less transformative, is why we are now building on the mistakes they made, the economy they downed. That by 1986, we only, NRM inherited this very economy you're saying was so good, 5 billion economy. Now, you have now a population that's growing at a faster rate.
Dr. Tanga, why do we keep comparing 1986? Let's compare 2021 and 2026. The 10 years the 5 years and the next 5 years. Because the comparison is 40 years in between. When we look at it and you talk about 74% literacy, the quality of the learners that we're chanting out there, that's the question there. The question about healthcare, you and I were at the nomination. A question was put to the president by a journalist called Mwesigwa about a hospital in Mukono. The Prime Minister was there.
An hour away.
Exactly. The Prime Minister was there, found the exact same facts of the social services. The lady gives birth and she's put on the floor.
A liberal scholar of my type.
The question of quality over quantity.
A liberal scholar. A liberal scholar of my background will do an assessment, regime by regime. An assessment, a proper assessment does not negate the fact that there could be failures. But that notwithstanding, the successes are there to be secured. The hospital you are talking about, I was there. Actually, Timothy, that you followed that journalist in raising a question. And His Excellency was quite up to it. He said, no, Prime Minister, go and find out. This journalist here could be right or wrong. Do you have the facts? If you don't have, go and find out. She actually visited the hospital. And she found that the population for that hospital was big. The incoming outpatients were too many. Some were actually on the floor. And the reasoning of the medical superintendent, I think, was that these people have medical facilities nearer them. It's just like having Mulago. But even when someone sneezes, wants to go to Mulago than the other medical facilities. Yes, you could say the drugs are not up to what we want because of theft, which he actually addressed. in that press conference where you are, that we are going to deal with theft of drugs. We have a leader who recognizes a fault within his government and sets on to improve on it. That's a better leader than the one who would say, you are not a Ugandan.
I agree with him.
I would like to ask you, Dr. Tang.
What is that journalist with an arrest?
No, the journalist was not arrested.
He wasn't arrested.
He wasn't arrested. I stand my ground.
Yes.
Are you sure?
And
The journalist was not arrested, and I want the Ugandans to know
true.
he was not arrested.
He wasn't. Mwesiga wasn't arrested. Dr. Tanga Odoi, does the NRM have any shortcomings in the last 5 years? And what are they?
But this is what I'm saying. The
Name
shortcoming in the last 5 years is that what is budgeted for is not fully implemented to the latter or to the final because of corruption, because of theft of drugs. Even when government says this must help us to fight malaria, fight curable diseases, the theft of drugs, which we recognize, which the president, even when at the launch of the manifesto, did acknowledge, is still a problem to us. Criminality. The country is secure, but this is not to say petty criminals are not there. You would be deceiving. Even Costa Rica, I'm not sure of Iceland, those countries without armies, you still have petty theft. So the president recognized that even when we are secure compared to what we have been, we still have criminalities. We still have others. We still have land grabbers. To me, that's a better leader. That's a leader who is ready to move us forward. Now, do we secure the gains? Yes. Whatever little you have in your home, secure it. Make it a stepping stone to gaining more. Qualitative leap. So that you leap into
How can that
more.
be a leap?
I'm saying even in your home as Honorable Salam Musso.
A leap.
You
know what a
have
leap
gains
means?
within
People are surviving.
I'm using the family model.
Okay.
I'm using the family model to try to make this thing very easy to understand. The Aristotelian family
You
model.
haven't understood.
Even when you have the slightest,
That can't be a leap.
out of your 5 children, out of your family, you find 2 have graduated, 2 have now gained jobs and help. That is the stepping stone to secure. Secure that.
It's not a leap. That's what the point I'm making.
Secure that. It is actually relevant.
I see.
It is.
And that's Uganda. The gentleman is complaining of Museveni keeping Uganda safe, secure, when in really in actual sense, he was the same guy who was tormenting other governments. He was the same guy who was making Idi Amin's government unstable. He was the same guy making Obote's government unstable. So he was the root cause of all the problems we have passed through. And now you are here saying he brought a solution. Who brought a solution? And yet today people are still being abducted, kidnapped, killed, tortured. The things he fought, he claimed to have fought, yet he was the one, the orchestrator, he was the one doing them. He's still doing them right now today. And he was talking of gains.
Here, it's a laissez-faire economy. If you can afford fertilizers, go and buy. If you can't afford, forget. Remember, you're cultivating land that has been used from the time the technology of cultivation was developed, was invented by the people of Uganda then. So if there is no incentive on fertilizers, I understand there is a semblance of incentives for irrigation.
Yes.
There is a semblance of it.
At district level.
At district level.
But also whispered.
Exactly.
They're well connected.
Provided by government.
Yes.
But where are the extension workers that we used to have? Who are going to train these people on how to use these facilities? First of all, knowing that these facilities exist in government. 2, knowing how to use them without spoiling them. 3, with land grabbing, people don't even have the land to produce. Now you leave that. You talk about the science of industrialization. Where are the industries where people are going to sell these things?
Okay.
You give some money to somebody through PDM to grow, to produce mats and sell them where?
Dr. Jambo, this question of agriculture, we talk about numbers of how arable in the region, we have the biggest arable. Same manifesto says it wants to jump it from 13% to 14%. That's our tax base there. When you look at that, is that possible and how can it happen? But also, please make a comment on why we're failing to nail corruption.
No, but
every manifesto has mentioned it.
But before that, I think, one, on agriculture, I'm impressed by Lydia's knowledge of the sector. The problem with the government is that it is run by people who will understand tomorrow. Because after 40 years, you're telling us about these initiatives. Why should we, after 40 years of running government, be talking about genetic improvement to be able to match with the rest in the region? I am a farmer. That's why I have an interest in it. We've been recently to Nairobi, to Kiambu. I looked at their cows, looked at my cows back home, and I said I had better facilities. They were beating us in one thing, genetics, because this is where government has not been helpful. Something that Idi Amin foresaw in the 70s when he started that farm in Entebbe, then Wiana Stock Farm, and so on and so forth. We had those district farm institutes. Where are they? They all collapsed in the last 40 years of the NRM government. And that is an area to be looked into, I hope, in the next government. Now, when you go to these research institutions, you remember, we had a debate in the 10th Parliament where government was offering narrow land for somebody to grow horticulture. It was a big debate. Coming to education, you can talk about the teachers' strikes today. Why? Because his people first implement, then go back and plan. They choose to plan backwards. For example, for heaven's sake, tell me the logic in the science in increasing salaries for science teachers, then you leave the arts teachers without abolishing arts. If you wanted, then abolish arts. But you are the ones inciting these arts teachers to strike. But before you even go further, medical students, you are promoting science education. The first thing this government did was to close down science teacher training colleges. In the entire Buganda region, there is no teacher training college for science teachers. The only one I know of is in Kabale. I could be educated further. In Uganda, there is none. But you're promoting science education. Have you thought about the intern doctors? Their education is regulated by the Ministry of Education. You're supposed to plan because you know this is the year of entry, that is the year of exit. You get to the exit time, there is no plan whatsoever for these students to do internship. And now you're talking about education and promoting science education. Now, taking you to the question you raised about taxes and then corruption. You see, it is basic economics. It's even, you can even read it from Livingstone and Ode when I used to study economics. That is the book I used to read, and then I was able to get an A in economics. Do you talk about the tax rates or widening the base?
The base.
Is it possible or is it not possible in Uganda for everybody to pay taxes and then we pay less? We get the most able and give them tax holidays and exemptions. Most able. Then you look at our resources. The best we can do to exploit our resources is to give them away. It's as if Africa is in a rush for the depletion of its resources. And I have studied this at a continental level. I am a student of tax administration. I went back and decided to specialize in it. It's as if we are rushing, finish the minerals, finish the oil. We do not have the skills to negotiate how to exploit our minerals, but we are rushing to get foreigners to come and deplete them, give them tax holidays, sell the other things we have to contribute to these people to take away these things. Well, I mean, why would you increase the tax rate today? A man like Dr. Jambo, or myself, or any of us for that matter, we are paying almost half of the salary goes into tax.
Not almost, it is now
Actually,
half.
it is actually now half. But that is for what we call direct tax. Before we consider the other indirect taxes, if you take 50% of my salary, then I go to buy fuel at the pump, I pay you VAT, and is it excise? Okay. I go to buy consumables in the supermarket, I pay taxes. I mean, what are you left? I will never invest because I have nothing to invest. Yesterday there was a trending clip on WhatsApp by one of our colleagues, the Honorable Rose Obiga, when she invaded a financial institution in Terego, where a teacher went and borrowed 1 million shillings. He paid, actually he had paid up to a tune of 2 million shillings. Then he goes to say, but look, give me a printout of my loan schedule.
Loan repayment
loan repayment schedule. I want to see how much I'm left with. And the institution was saying, no, you will get it next month. In the meantime, the interest will be going. But tell me, who invests 1 million and expects to get rich? It was amazing the other time when I saw the president when he was mocking us in Wachiso, in Usiro South, where he went and told the woman, now you, wealth has visited your house because you got 2 pigs. Was it 2 pigs or 2 goats? By the way, and the president was proudly telling this woman, for you, you are now liberated.
Okay. Allow me to end with Dr. Tang. Doctor, when you look at the electoral process that we're getting into, especially to the ballot, what is your outlook of it?
The first thing is that Dr. Jam talked nicely about the 1960s and how we're exporting a lot of coffee and water. In what form? That's where we lost a lot. We are exporting raw materials. Germany, which has no tree of coffee, you are more used to this than me because you travel as MPs, because you get better salary than better mortgage.
Because of the work we do.
Because of the government we serve and the government which is doing well.
So which is an unfair government?
The government which is giving you a lot of money.
Yes, making it unfair.
Now, that German without a tree of coffee makes more money from coffee from Uganda. Now, this is what the government is saying, that we've had enough.
After 40 years.
It doesn't matter. It's better for you to know that we can even start than to keep remaining there. A stunted growth is not as good. Let us move. So if the government is saying our coffee will not be exported in the old form, which Dr. Jamb is praising, Uganda was producing a lot of cotton. And if you now go to cotton, you need 4 acres to get 800,000.
For us is Vinci who knows nothing about coffee.
No, that's another thing. That's another issue we can debate. Those are failures here and there. But what the government is trying to experiment with is that let's go back to not exporting raw materials as raw materials. Let's get the benefits of doing this here and exporting finished products.
Anyway,
We have,
Now,
we
the
have a
next
coffee
thing,
factory
the next
in
thing-
Namlesa, which you've shut down and stole.
Well, I think
We were already at that
I'm
stage.
not in the book of Lamentations.
You
The next,
have.
I'll not be
You
belong
are,
to that.
because
So
you
you-
cannot tell all Ugandans to take their coffee. Tuntungamo.
When you go to agriculture, I quite think he's right. There are problems here and there. The problem of seeds. I was in Makere by then.
Tanga, some of these things are so basic that you buy,
Mosato.
you buy coffee in Bugisu, carry it to Ntungamo, process it, then drive it back past Bugisu and export it.
No, that is when the Ntungamo is not yet in Bugisu. But all those will be there.
And yet there was Namlesa.
So it will be there. What I'm saying,
And the right thing is to
allow
start
me
from-
utilize my
Please-
time.
please allow
Allow me
him to
utilize my
finish.
time.
Yes.
Please. We are saying as NRM, enough is enough with exporting raw materials. Let us start gaining from here. Those are the fights we have with other capitalist economies. That's why we are saying we still have the Chinas, the Russias, where we can deal with business. But we cannot praise a government of 1964, 1970, 1980, where cotton, you and me, could be byproducts of cotton from the East. We would have lorries coming for cotton from our home, taking it as raw materials. But look at if we had diversified. This is what we are saying now. Don't get Uganda to use 4 acres to produce cotton. Let the 4-acre model have a component of coffee, a component of foodstuff, a component of this. So that in that way, at least you regenerate the wheel. About agriculture in Busoga, the Busoga politicians should stand to tell the truth. The debate which was in Parliament, and you were in Parliament then, was that Busoga should not be touched. Leave our Bikado. Busoga used to be the food basket, even as far as 1994. Because Busoga would have cassava garden, it would have this maize, and then would have sugarcane. But now Busoga are renting out their land to Busoga who can afford for sugarcane.
Who has
To the
licensed,
extent that,
who has licensed
to the extent that you
mills?
want even a factory to be owned by the local people, is because you don't accept that you cannot go in with only sugarcane.
Okay.
Lastly, about elections. I think NRM is ready for this election. We have accomplished whatever is wanted of us, to the extent that we launched a manifesto. We nominated candidates, we launched a manifesto, we are now on the campaign trail. What do we expect? We expect to do better, because the services we've given to the people are making the people appreciate the government more and more. The handout you are talking about, I want the leader of PFF to go and tell the beneficiary of 1 million that you have been robbed.
Okay.
You have been given a handout, and it is a useless handout. People are changing their lifestyle. People are changing their homes.
People are exploited.
What we need to do is
People
mindset
mattresses.
change, even among we the elite.
Okay.
We the elite.
And
Thank you,
does
Dr.
the
Tang.
government have a role in that mindset
The
change?
birthday
Yes, of
girl.
course.
I just wanted to say that actually the NRM is ready because we launched the campaigns yesterday in Luwero, but even the principal is able to introduce all the flag bearers. So from the top to the last man, the last lady, we are set to go, and the campaign is moving on very well. We have a manifesto. We have the tool to say what we are going to do in the next 5 years.
The contract, social contract.
So we have the tool, and we have the candidates. They are being introduced. The campaign is on, and we hope that we'll be able to win the next election and serve the people.
Okay, serve the people.